Good morning. This is a recording for class. Sorry about what happened yesterday on Zoom. That was crazy. Um, so we'll start sharing screen and get at it. It's really early in the morning, about 4 a.m. ish. 35 degrees. I'm in my garage with my dogs, but this is why I like it. It really is. This is my favorite routine in the mornings where I do my journaling and reading. So I'm gonna get at it. First thing we're gonna talk about is chapter 9, the development of beginning reading skills. The importance of reading. So reading skills are crucial in order to have success right now in life. The demands in the even just basic and general jobs that are minimum wage, there's a demand for reading. Even in corrections now, there's a demand for writing. They got to write reports. There's a demand for literacy, and it's increasing as technologies increase. That's heavily influenced the amount of things that we can do. But with that increase, take a look at our reading scores in 2019. Only 35% of the fourth graders and 36% of the eighth graders were proficient in reading. So that's a general look at most of our kids in the States, saying that only a third, maybe a slightly more, are actually proficient in reading, which is kind of the opposite of what we need right now. We need more readers. So since 2017, there's been another measurement, and only one state since then has shown growth. 20 of them, no change. The rest actually had a significant decline. So we're not getting better. That's the strange part is, we have all this technology now. We have all this research, yet we're not getting better. And it's because we're not addressing the processes of how to get students to read and how to support teachers. Sorry, I'm going to get off in a tangent. That's RTI's talking to me. The consent of reading. So this is what we do know. This is a good definition of reading I like from the book is a process. Reading is a process of getting meaning from print, using knowledge about the written alphabet and about the sound structure of oral language for purposes of achieving understanding. Right? It's using these graphemes, these symbols, and putting them together, and these create words that connect to us, that explain our world. And then we get to be able to learn from that. We get to be able to teach from that. Oh, I love reading. Literacy gets me all excited. As we read a sentence in culturally prescribed direction, so this is the components of reading. Sorry, I just jumped into it. One, as we read a sentence in a culturally prescribed direction, so from left to right, right? When you're reading from left to right, we build up syntactic structures for that sentence in a step-by-step manner. So we build up syntactic structure, a sentence structure. We build it up, and it's a step-by-step. This structure combines individual word meanings into arrangement that helps people compute the overall meaning of the sentence. So we can build up syntactic structures in such a way, step by step, that we can start our brain will start knowing the codes, the patterns of the syntactic structures. So that way our brain's already, as we're reading, it's predicting what's happening. The example for that is they gave four different rules. I'm going to cover one. The tall boy hit the round ball, right? So what that means is the, right? That's not a noun. So you got the in there. So you're starting to create a sentence. And usually after the, you're going to have a noun phrase. So the tall boy, that's a noun phrase. Hit, verb, hit the ball, round ball. Sorry, I'm already getting confused. Hit the round ball. That's a verb phrase. So that type of sentence has been ingrained in us so much, where when we start seeing we're going to start predicting there's going to be a noun phrase. So we're thinking the Hispanic male, right? The guy wearing his robe. I don't know. I'm trying here. Right? That's a noun phrase. So enough of those, our brain matches the patterns of that and can start predicting, right? So that's what that means. The next one is eye movements can be very diagnostic about the process of lexical access. and the construction of syntax, right? So the way we read, I thought it was like a flow of water, right? As we read, it just glides through. No, it's very choppy. As you read, sorry, it's very cold out here. As we read, our eyes actually hop from one word to another, similar to how a rock hops onto a lake when you skip it, right? So your eyes skip from word to word to word to word. So the proficient readers, your eyes skip faster. Sometimes we get stuck on words, right? And that's the best way to explain that. And you're going to need to keep that concept in there because it helps explain the rest of them. Readers are sensitive to the frequency with which particular syntactic structures are encountered in text, right? So you know how the tall boy hit the round ball. So that's a syntactic structure because it's using a noun phrase, tall boy hit the round ball, right, with the verb phrase. So we get enough of those. We get tons of those. And the syntactic structures are encountered in text. So now commonly observed structures tend to be started first in the mind, right? So as we're reading, these are starting to pop up in our mind using a word by word process. However, less frequent syntactic structures can be primed and override the more common construction. And that's done by priming. So the example they gave was interesting. The soldiers warned about the dangers conducted the midnight raid, right? That sentence sounds very weird. It's kind of like I don't get it. But say if you prime somebody, you gave them this sentence beforehand, that sentence at when they would read it, they would make more sense. So the sentence you would want to prime a person with is the soldiers who were warned about the dangers conducted the midnight raid, right? So giving them 2 or 3 times of that, the brain would override the typical structures that they would want to see, and it would read the soldiers warned about the dangers conducted the midnight raid, right? It would be you wouldn't get stuck on it because see that's what happens when I was reading it. I was already getting stuck on it, and that's what slows down readers when they don't have enough of these synthetic structures in their brain. It slows down their reading, and that ultimately that's what influences the comprehension. 4, when the eyes fixate on a word during reading, all the multiple meanings of particular words are activated. However, only the one meaning that is consistent with the meaning of the sentence remains active until the meaning of the sentence is computed. The incompatible meanings are inhibited very quickly, so they're dropped very quickly. This pattern of parallel activation of multiple possibilities followed by inhibition of incorrect possibilities does not seem to be the case for syntax. So that was a long way of saying this. The people rose when the queen entered the room. When your brain comes across that, the queen rose, right? Your brain starts thinking of the flower rose, the color rose, maybe your aunt rose. But the only one that fits there is rose up, right? So all those other roses dropped out. And that's what's used. Your brain computes that, and that's what makes it sense. Whatever one makes the most sense in that syntactic structure, that's what your brain remembers. Okay. Phonology seems to play a role in assessing word meanings, building up syntactic structures, and controlling of eye movement. Well, of course. Of course. Phonology is everything. You know, I always talk about that with you guys. I'm dying. Man, that's a hard cough. So cold. You have the big thing about this simply is there's orthography. Remember, the orthography is that's when your brain recognizes a set of symbols and it needs to be spelled correctly. And then your brain stores that into your long-term memory with the meaning of it, though. There needs to be the meaning, right? So NFL, remember I gave you that example? when you have those three together, the meaning behind it means National Football Organization. So when you see that, you don't think of, well, why are those three separate letters together? No, you see National Football Organization, you think of football player, you think of Super Bowl, right? If I had NLF, that means nothing to you, right? That's what that means. So orthography, that's what influences phonology, right? The ability to separate sounds, ability to recreate new sounds when you change out, when you substitute the initial, or you take out the initial, or you take out the middle, a middle sound, and it creates a whole new word. So that influences that, and that influences meaning. Well, what the research showed in the reading is phonology can influence orthography too, and vice versa. So there's many different ways that can happen, but typically these three are together: orthography, phonology, and meaning. All right, guys, get together in your groups. No, I'm just kidding. So the connectionist model of reading, and I encourage you guys to read it, to watch this right here. It's a short little clip of the person who created this. She explains it, so she's probably gonna do a lot better job than I am, but not really. I'm probably gonna kill it too. Um, so this is the thing: is meaning is connected to phonological, phonics, right? Phonics is the symbols put together with rules to create words, creates orthographic, right? That influences orthographic. Then that influences phonological. See, the mouse is going back and forth. The arrows are going back and forth. Phonological influences meaning, meaning influences orthographic, and vice versa. And ultimately, context is the heavily influences on meaning. So we're going to cover that individually. These are the two things you got to remember about orthographic processor. Sorry, let's make sure I by really fast. It recognizes and stores and recalls the letters and combinations of letters that we use to recognize in written language. Like I was explaining before, is when your brain comes across words, even here, my brain's coming across recognizes, right? It's recalling that at a rapid rate. And if recognizes was kind of misspelled, I would still recognize it, but at a slower rate. But that's what orthographic processing is, right? It's storing that. It's having that these words long term stored in your long term memory, so that way when you're reading it, it's just you're fluent with it, you're quick. The retrieval heavily influences your fluency. And stores. So the thing about orthographic processors, it stores print information for retrieval to efficiently recognize and recall words for reading and spelling. So that's where it's heavily influencing those categories. The meaning processor, that's what interprets words. That's when it comes across words and it's saying like the queen rose, or the people rose when the queen entered the room, right? Rose has several different meanings. In your brain, there's a meaning processor that's in there that's distinguishing all that. It organizes words into meaning networks by spelling patterns, right? With spelling patterns, so the meaning processor you see right there, it's already being connected by phonic. It's being influenced by phonological and orthographic, because that's what spelling patterns are. Categories and concepts, right? The queen rose. Those right. Those three words could fit in different categories and concepts easily right there. Word relationships, word meanings and associated meanings, and meaningful parts of words, morphemes and roots. So that's influencing the sounds. The phonological processor, that's the one that's starting to detect the rhymes, the beginnings of sounds, the sounds, the distinguishing of sounds, right? Recreating sounds and looking at the patterns of sounds, right? That's what phonics are, just patterns. So it detects, recalls, and understands phonemes. Remember, phonemes is just the synonym for that as sounds. Dying. It's cold out here. Detects, recalls, and understands sounds that make up spoken words. That's so important. It's very important. You know, I was in TSS's all day yesterday, and we're talking about literacy and speech issues, right? Phonemic awareness when you're reading it, it's not much different when you're teaching it to kids who have language issues. It is exactly the same way. You use the exact same strategy sometimes, right? So if a kid has a phonemic processing issue, so detecting, recalling, understand sounds that make up spoken words. Say a kid has issues with frog, right? Fog, fog, fog. They don't see the lips going frog, frog, frog. Put a mirror in front of them. Frog, frog. They'll get the F, right? To teach them the different movements. Same thing with reading. If a kid's having issues, they do the same thing. Controls, so you see the phonological process heavily influencing both reading and spoken language. Controls the production of sounds and words in spoken language. Well, that's what that's here. Yeah. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of the PowerPoint. You know, I don't go off of that. I have all this knowledge in my brain. It connects both. And think about it, like what are we communicating for? Right? Am I just trying to communicate for the sake of just talking? No. Meaning. I'm trying to communicate something that I need, right? A lot of it has to do with meaning. So you see how they're all connected. Reading. What are you reading for? Right? Sure, we teach kids to read these random uh, passages when they're trying to learn to read, you know, first grade, second grade, third grade. Remember, that's a big part of this, guys. And I'm gonna cover the quiz in this today too. But then after that, we need to get them interested in what the well, you got to get them interested in reading altogether. You should always have interest in what they're reading because that's what motivates them. So you start seeing meaning, phonological processor, orthographic processor, right? If their brain's not recalling these words fast enough, how they're all just connected, they influence each other, influence students' motivation, understanding of what's being read. And then there's the context process. I didn't get sick. Provides support to the meaning processor by interpreting words based on language of a sentence, experience or circumstances, and knowledge of a concept. Maybe go anywhere with that. So, for example, the bolt of lightning hit the clock tower during the storm last night. The word bolt has several meanings. However, in this example, it means a shaft of lightning or thunderbolt, right? So, in that sentence, the word that best fit the context of that sentence, the meaning is the actual lightning flash, right? So that's where context has a lot, the processor is needed in order to differentiate that. So there's three different things I want to give you guys in that. There's semantic knowledge. That means to access meanings of the words in a sentence. So for example, Juan went to the store to buy a, right? That's semantic knowledge. We're gonna fill that with something that we typically buy, Gatorade, right? To buy soda, chips. Juan went to the store to buy a, yeah. Then there's pragmatic knowledge. So this has a lot to do with this. Is used to expect that Juan will buy something that people usually buy in stores. So sorry, I got ahead of it. So that's pragmatic, what you're going to expect. Semantic is Juan went to the store to buy it. And the syntactic also prompts the reader to form certain expectations about what occur next, as discussed earlier. So syntactic is the sentence structure. Pragmatic is when you're starting to expect based on what people usually buy. So those are the three different contexts: semantic, pragmatic, and syntactic that help it. They help with the context processor. And then there's the last view. So that all that I gave you was one part of reading, and this is the next view of reading. It's called the simple view of reading. It's word recognition, time, like connected to language comprehension, right? Both are influenced That's what reading comprehension is, right? You have tons of language comprehension. You have tons of stored meanings, sort of word meanings in your head. So when you hit those words, your those stored meanings come out. There's reading comprehension. Well, word recognition, that's heavily influenced by, phonemic awareness and phonics. Language comprehension, that's vocab, right? If you don't know what a word says, means, you're not going to get the sentence, right? And comprehension, to be able to recall what you're reading, right? And those are connected by fluency, by reading. I love this diagram. Brilliant. There you go. Reading comprehension. All right. The development of beginning reading skills, that's the next section. So this is the thing that you got to remember about emergent. It is that stage is a continuum. That stage is a continuum. Emergent is a continuum of skills. It's not fixed. Like before, it was called readiness skills, and it's like kids weren't ready until they were 5, or until they had a certain set of skills. It's like no, 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 because you got some kids who can read earlier, some kids who can read later. There's a continuum of skills, and that has to do with their print concepts, their print awareness, and their invented spelling. So that's their CAP skills. That's the composite is combines with like the alphabet knowledge, um, concepts of print, the ability to partially sound out a word using, for example, the first sound of a word. So that's the print awareness. And invented spelling is like kindergarten. When the kids are first spelling, they may spell kindergarten as KDN or flowers as FLAWRS. They're still phonetic, right? They're still following some type of theme, but it's very invented. They're still in the early stages. Okay. Then there's the precocious readers. Reading occurs at the age of 5, right? But what we've seen is some kids actually read sooner, right? Some kids are reading at the age of 2, right? That's pretty precocious of them. 3, 4, they read earlier. Reading is very experiential. A lot of it is motivational and motivational. So it's connected with all 3, right? So obviously it's what they've experienced, how old they are, right? Because your brain matures depending on how old you are, and everybody's different. And then the motivation is always key. And then the development, heavily influenced by sight vocabularies. Our sight vocabularies are acquired through practice. So this is the thing I keep telling you guys. Everything's about practice. Whether the kid has dyslexia, the kid has missed a ton of school and needs to catch up. Right? Language learner, about giving them those reps. It's all about the reps. All about the reps. Decoding, reading by analogy, reading by predicting, and sight reading and reading fluency. Those are the keys in the developmental stages. Then I've covered that. This is a good definition of fluency, just to close out this chapter. Fluency combines accuracy, automaticity, and all the prosody, which taken together facilitate the reader's construction of meaning. It is just demonstrated during oral reading through the ease of word recognition, appropriate pacing, phrasing, and annotation. It is a factor in both oral and silent reading that can limit or support comprehension. All right, chapter 10. All right, guys, let's break into groups again. Funny guy. Okay, the nature of reading comprehension. Man, when a reader dying. When a reader comprehends a writer, there is a meeting of the minds. Relatively, we can say that comprehension involves knowing what is going in some extended portion of the text, right? So what you're trying to do when you're reading, like when I'm reading this Byron's book, I'm trying to understand what he's trying to say. What is he trying to say about reading comprehension? You know, and at the point where I understand what he's trying to say, boom, our minds, man. That's time. I think that's really cool. One further way to describe comprehension at a general level is to note that textual interpretation is very much a process of creating coherent representation of ideas contained in a passage or book. So those are the two definitions I really liked. I really liked about reading comprehension. Structural aspects. This is a very short chapter too. Structural aspects of reading comprehension. Structural aspects largely pertain to what readers know. Functional aspects pertinent what people do. So the reading comprehension is affected by working memory. It acts as a buffer to temporarily retain previously read successive items of information until the integration of these items can occur. So your working memory essentially stores up all these different words that you're coming across, all these different meanings, and all these different sentences. And as you're reading a passage, your working memory is connecting the dots. And then what's heavily influenced by reading comprehension, or reading comprehension is heavily influenced by knowledge related too. So besides having schemata for types, for us, remember schemata? Schemata for objects and schemata for events. Remember, schemata means that it's a situation that you come across enough, or like birthday parties. You go to a birthday party enough where when you go to a birthday party, you expect a cake. That's schemata for objects. Well, when you come across a cake, what do you usually do? Right? I'm teaching my daughter that she's turning 1 on March 1st. Can't wait. So this is, it's kind of, I like to help to explain this. Guess what, Jenna? Look, we got you a little birthday cake. We had a little cupcake the other day. Guess what she automatically started doing? She already had schemata for events. She started saying, happy birthday. Yeah, she don't talk that well. To you. She already knew schemata for events. So not only do we have schemata for objects and events, but this is where it connects to reading comprehension. It has been claimed that readers have skilled readers and writers have schemata for specific types of text too. And that's narrative expository. Those are the two main ones. Most narratives have characters, right? So this is good in narratives. It's the story. And then just every story, you got characters, settings, complications, and major goals, right? Plots and resolutions of complications. This is, I love it because it's just typical life, right? If you would have been in our meetings all day yesterday, you had the parents, the characters, the setting was at the school, the complications was the kids' behavior, not reading, right? We had major goals, the plots and resolutions, complications. How did we get it? How did we solve it? When people left, what did they feel like? Emotional and other responses to the storyline. Right? How did they feel when they left? How did they feel about their kids' struggle? How did the staff empathize? Such points, morals, themes, points of view, and perspectives. Right. So that's where, if you already seen, I already explained those. Those narratives all of the way come across us, even in our daily lives, but also in what we read and write. But then there's expository. The main goal of expository text is to provide information, right? Manuals, right? Our textbook is expository, right? It's trying to provide information that readers can learn something. The functional aspects of comprehension, one was orienting. So they need to engage in their attentional mechanisms. So this has a lot to do with their attention processing. Motivational components such as interest as well. And then just coherence forming. So that's inferences and inhibition, right? So inferencing is when you come across two subjects and you try to connect them, so you infer something. And inhibition is when you're coming across a whole bunch of information, right? Remember the queen rose, when the queen walked in the room, the people rose, right? You need inhibition to take away all those meanings, all those other meanings in order for it to fit. So that's what coherence forming is. And then you got reading strategies, and that's just strategies that you use, identifying a main idea, summarizing, predicting, monitoring, backtracking, right? Comprehension monitoring, backtracking. I don't think I need to dig in those more. The démêlement, All right, we almost done one more slide. The development of reading comprehension skills, working memory. So there are also individual differences in memory retrieval, such that good readers are more likely to access the right word meanings, read fluently, and inhibit proper meanings than poor comprehenders. Right. So working memory is heavily influences the development of reading comprehension. Then you got topic knowledge. It's arranged by schemata. Remember how I was explaining before? The birthday cake, the have singing happy birthday. So objects and events. And then you have expository and narrative. Reading increases topic knowledge, and increased topic knowledge improves comprehension. And last, you got story schemata, major settings, minor settings, initiating events, internal responses, attempts, the direct consequences, reactions. There's also individual differences in memory retrieval, such that good readers are more like, sorry, I read that. Something I thought I had a note at the bottom. All right, that's reading comprehension for you. So that's about it. Now I want to cover the quiz real quick. Just real quick. Um, so since 2017, blank percentage of states showed a significant decline in reading skills. Yeah, a decline in reading skills. All right, let me scroll down. The next one. Over the years, various researchers have doubted the existence of mental parser grammatical rules and grammatical classes. They did. Yes, they did. There is a long-standing debate in the field of reading research on two hypotheses regarding word meanings. Which two are the hypothesis researchers are debating about? Right? So that's whether people access word meanings directly from orthographic and phonology inventing, and you'll figure out the other one. It's in the reading. It has to do with theoretical models. Orthographic knowledge consists of knowing the individual symbols of written language. You better know that what that answer is. Consists of knowledge, knowing the individual symbols of written language. You better know. Connectionist model of reading include connectionist model. It includes a lot. Should include almost everything. In the contemporary theories, readers are assumed to achieve this kind of understanding. But it's gonna be multiple. That'll be multiple questions correct. You should have more than one on that question answer. So that. So let me read. Let me give you a little more. In contemporary theories, readers are assumed to achieve this kind of understanding: either text genre level, communication level, situation model, text bass level, surface code level. Readers gain knowledge of common relations found in expository texts, such as collection, causation, response comparison, and description. I hope you like my hints. A second way to identify main ideas is to locate various signals in the text. Sometimes signals are graphic, semantics, all the above, lexical. According to schema theoretical models of comprehension, an individual who writes an expository textbook has schematized knowledge of the relations identified and also knows the conventional ways of communicating these languages. Yep. Yep. Do you think that was a negative or positive? Yep. What is not A reading strategy. Predicting, identifying the main idea, none of the above, monitoring, or backtracking. That one starts at the end. All right. All right. That's it, everyone. I'm gonna send this out. So, yeah, that's it. Peace with some chicken grease.